Welcome to the PrimeSpan Podcast, where we talk about aging, mental health, and living well in the years that matters the most. Each week, we cut through the noise to focus on what actually helps you feel clearer, steadier, and more in control as you age. If you're navigating the second half of life or thinking ahead, you're in the right place. Let's get into it.
We live in a culture that worships exhaustion and calls it ambition. Rise and grind, no days off, sleep when you're dead. But what if that mindset is actually killing us, especially after 55? Welcome back to the PrimeSpan Podcast. I'm Adam, and joined by my co-founders, Jessica, Allyson, Kassandra, and Shannon. Together, we're redefining what success really means after 55, where energy, clarity, and resilience matter more than hustle. This is where science meets lifestyle so you can live better and longer. I have a confession to make, just like all of our beginning podcasts. I used to see rest as weakness. Now I see burnout as the ultimate failure, because no amount of success is worth dying tired. And I really am trying to balance this too, especially as you all know, I'm becoming a dad pretty soon. And I'm trying to practice the same thing. Now, I want to ask, just to start this off to all of you, I want to ask this first question, and feel free to answer. Why do we still glorify being busy, even when our bodies are beginning, or even if our bodies are begging us to slow down and live smarter? Why do you think that is?
I think that when you're busy, it people value that. Like it means you have something going on in life. And if you're constantly filling your time with being busy, it's like, oh, Sandra must have it all. She's always has something going on. She's always doing something. And I also think that we, like you said, people admire the grind. People admire people who are working hard. It's like they're working towards something. It's almost like a badge of honor, if you're busy and you're just like, I'll sleep that sleep when I'm dead mentality. But to your point, what you said in the opening, what's the point of living? If all you're doing is working all the time. You have to take time to step aside and rest and look at, where you've come and what you've achieved and appreciate, where you're at. So I think we've just honestly built ourselves up to think that, working and being busy all the time is just better than not having anything going on.
I'll piggyback on you, Cass. My mind is probably too busy, and see what happens to the mind when you're too busy. It's not good. You become less mindful. But now my thoughts are a bit skewed. But so I think sometimes we confuse busyness with having purpose, right? Because everybody wants to have purpose, and it's something that we really push and encourage in the PrimeSpan platform. But one can still have purpose and not be burning themselves out with the busyness aspect. And I think that's where there could be more of a delineation, where I feel a deep sense of purpose, but I'm not burning myself out to accomplish that purpose.
That is a beautiful point, because when you think about a lot of the people that you talked to, most of the people, when you ask them how are things with you, the first thing that you hear as an answer, busy. I've been busy. And Jessica, to your point, purpose and busy sometimes are what are you busy about? And people sometimes fill their time with just things, and you think that there's a badge of honor of just becoming busy. And when you think about this, busyness is the new badge of worth. There's this feeling, and I keep on thinking about this because I resonate with that. And just if I'm being completely honest, I think as a guy, that's a thing as well. There's something about it as a guy that you're conditioned to continue to be busy, and I'm sure majority of our listeners can resonate with that, especially if you've been busy in well, you're conditioned to work the whole time in your life, and the hardest thing is actually when people retire. I had this conversation recently with one of our guests that even some people have a hard time replacing that being busy, because one of his story was they don't know what to do, and one of the example that he gave me is that his coworker committed and he killed himself because he didn't know what to do with himself. So this is an interesting piece for me. Go ahead, Kassandra.
It is. I think because if you make your life, or you dedicate X amount of hours out of your day to work, you have 24 hours in the day, maybe you're sleeping 5, 6, 7 hours, and maybe your days are 12-hour days. Like, your identity is so much tied into your work. So then when it does come time to retire, and maybe you didn't make time for rest, you didn't make time for connecting with people or community, what are you left with when you actually retire?
Mm-hmm.
What is there to look forward to? It's the mindset of let me do it all, let me do it all, and then I'll rest later. But why do it all if you don't have people to enjoy later with, or you're not around to enjoy because you've burned yourself out, and now you have all these health issues, stress, blood pressure, stroke happens, and then what? Was it worth it?
It took me longer to think about this question that you asked, Adam, because thinking about ambition, I think it means different things for people of different generations, and who have different purposes, like you guys have said. But I think for ambition, we're raised with the idea that success is the hard work, the loyalty, getting different, growing in different positions, and maybe staying in your job for 30, 40 years. And you just work so hard, and maybe if it's finances, you have to continue working to support your family. But ambition at some point can turn into that burnout. So that kind of scares me for the future, I think.
I want to pivot here very and I couldn't agree more with you, Allyson. But I want to pivot us a little bit here. When you think about most of our listeners, most of our members who are at their 55 plus, and when I think about what would typically happen in their bodies when they keep grinding, or when their grind is nonstop at 55, how do you think their body is going to respond at that level? Like at 55, your stress level is high, I'm sure, and you're constantly trying to keep yourself busy, and your resilience is sometimes goes lower at that age, because your ability to stay to manage some of the stress is lower. What do you guys think will typically happen to someone like that at that age, and what do you think would be the best way to handle it?
I think by starting to implement a routine that helps with mindfulness, whether it's journaling, meditation, a 30-minute walk, a couple times a week their favorite workout routine or pottery class, even if it's something that they implement starting now, if you're listening today, it'll help you to increase longevity because it'll force the brain to shut off when you have so many things to do and then focus on what you're actually doing, either breathing, looking at nature, working with your fine motor skills by doing artwork or working out. So I think that's the best balance in order to implement something now so that you can have that, you know, towards the future into the hundreds.
And I think if you don't do those things, Jen, I loved all those ideas. One thing that I do when I need to like reset or unwind, like I'll go to the market. Like I love walking around the market.
Yeah.
And it just like helps me like recenter, regroup, and think about, oh, what can I do with these ingredients, or what should I make this weekend? But I think if we don't do those things, then you are putting yourself at risk for not sleeping well, right? Because you're so busy, you're burning yourself out, you're constantly thinking, then it's hard to get good sleep. If you're not getting good sleep, then you can't focus. So how productive are you in the days to come if you're not taking those rest breaks? And then I know this, if I go and I don't give myself time to rest, then I know I open myself to get sick very easily. Because you've just run yourself down to the ground and you compromise your immune system. And then then again, how productive are you, during that time? Then you're forced to rest because your body is like, hey, I'm short circuiting. Stop. You're not going to be good to anyone. And now I'm forcing you to lay down and be in bed.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kaz. I was going to say that so much stress can weaken the immune system. Adam, how you said it, your resilience just goes down. Rest is the most important, but people are just like, no, I got to keep going. I got to keep going. And then why are you going to keep going until you like can't go anymore? That's not healthy. I was thinking about how too much stress impairs memory and just function. Your ability to make good or bad decisions. That is important to make sure that you take time to rest. Is it in your day building in a 5 or 10 minute walk? Drinking enough water, I think, is important too. Having good healthy snacks to help keep fueling your body is important.
We're talking about routines here. I'm curious to hear from everyone, especially it's probably good for our listeners to get some advice or probably some revelation. How do we manage stress? Since we're talking about what routines do we implement, or what routines do you implement, breaking those when you know that you're in a tipping point, because that's the other thing, right? The first thing is when you know you're in a tipping point, how do you break that, and what routine do you implement to break that tipping point, so you come back to a rest mode, or a point where you could feel like, okay, I'm not going to break down, I'm not going to burn out.
I have a thought of this, Adam. I was talking with some colleagues and friends about this on ways to manage stress. We keep talking about routines, but sometimes you need to completely change the routine. You need to go on vacation. You need to step away, get out of your normal routine to really remove yourself from it. I think that's important. And I think if you have people in your life or community of people, just calling up that person just to unload for a little bit. Sometimes I call you guys if I'm stressed, and it just makes me feel a little bit better having to vent about something at times. But really talking to those important people in your life, and they probably understand you the best. So I would say really change that routine, plan a vacation, or just a day trip somewhere, get outside, just change the routine and talk to people.
Mm-hmm. Love that one, especially the vacation.
The vacation one is good, and I think that's important for people to do, whether it's vacation or some kind of event or something. You always want to plan something, whether it's once a month, every other month, to look forward to it. So that's one thing I try to do, to help kind of keep me afloat. A couple other things that I'll do is when I really if it day to day, if I feel like my stress is like building up, or I know that I'm getting exhausted, I'll put my phone on do not disturb for a set time. And then I'll reach out to people who I know maybe are trying to contact me or that I have commitments with that day, and let them know, hey, I'm not going to be reachable during this time. So that way they know, hey, she's just not going to answer, but she'll come back to me later. And then finding ways to play, whether it's with like grandchildren, nieces and nephews, like that was really instrumental during like the pandemic for me. I'm sure as all of us, just burning out or just being around, just you're constantly pivoting and helping and taking care of people. So that was one thing that really helped me during that time. And then music is so powerful. And for me, I know I will just throw on some like disco 70s music, like Shaka Khan or the Bee Gees, and it just like all that music, that whole era is just so positive and uplifting, that it really does change my mood. Like it's so weird to think that it's that powerful, but it really does. So I will do that. I will blast it in the car over and over again until I feel like, okay, I'm good now. And then even singing along, like carpool karaoke, do not sleep on carpool karaoke. It's really therapeutic. Lately, that's what I've been doing, and I will not do it with anyone else in the car with me.
You just gave us an idea for our next social media post. We're going to have a carpool karaoke post.
Yeah, what is your go-to song? And then like one song that I will listen to is like The Pursuit of Happiness, but it's the like electronic version by Steve Aoki, and that also just like pumps me up and totally changes my mood. But carpool karaoke is the way to go.
Pursuit of Happiness, huh? The disco version. Yeah, I know that song. Shannon,
I love that class.
Yes.
I'm a big supporter of carpool karaoke. My other big stress management technique was always like exercise. I've shared, I think, on our podcast previously, I'm not able to do the level of exercise that I'd like to do right now, which has been very hard for me. And it's definitely when you lose the stress reliever, it's difficult. But I appreciate hearing from everybody because I'm getting a lot of ideas as to how I can pivot and implement some other ideas while I'm still waiting to be able to get back to really pushing myself.
I do the same thing as Jess. I also love to exercise, even if it's not like a hard one. Like I said earlier, the walking really does wonders just to be outside. That's like the most immediate thing I like to do because it doesn't cost anything. I can go with myself. I can go with my partner, or I could just put on a podcast and listen and walk. And then like a good meal, something that makes me happy. Mine is steak and French fries. It really makes me happy to have a good meal. So that's what I do to kind of break like a stressful week or a month. I look forward to that. It's not hard, it's easy. And then I'm happy again.
I'm curious. I'm curious to know what you do, Adam.
Well, mine is there's a couple of things. I take Shannon's magnesium. That's I've been taking that magnesium regularly. Ever since she's given me that advice, I've taken it.
Does that help you get sleep or get rest?
Actually, I'm like, I think I need a higher dose because I still don't fall asleep. You
Oh
know,
my
you and
goodness.
I are like the night owls, Allyson. But I need a tranquilizer to sleep, probably. Uh, no, so I exercise, as you all know, is a huge thing. When I'm stressed, you'll find me cooking. That's one of the piece that it was stress reliever for me. That's cooking, any version of cooking. It's baking. I think I've mentioned one time I love baking sourdough or any type of baking. The reading a book lately, but lately I've been on audiobooks because of just doing a lot more things. But the exercise is something that really gets me. There's one more thing that I do that probably I don't know if a lot of people likes it, but I go to the sauna when I'm going through a stressful day. I go to the sauna. After that, after I come out of it, it feels like you're just melted and fresh. Yeah. It just makes you feel good right after. And that for whatever reason hasn't affected me. Like that really refreshed me, and then after that my mind is clear.
That steam in the face, I can understand how it would totally wipe away the stress because you're like, oh my gosh, my face is on fire.
Some people get mad. It gets too hot. I have a curiosity here. What do you guys think will happen if society, especially at because at work sometimes I'm in every setup, in every setting, you're people that are busy, people that are in careers, we all know this. We've noticed this. When you're busy, when you know that the schedule of a person is full, when someone says, I have this schedule, you're typically glorified. But what if society actually glorifies someone who find balance and someone who could say, I think recovery in work-life balance is much better to be glorified? What do you think will happen in society?
That would be a great shift. Go ahead, Cass. I just want to say that would be a great shift.
I think that we're kind of in that. I think people are starting to shift that way, honestly. Working smarter, not harder. I think the pandemic had a lot to do with that shift. People realize, like, what am I doing? Why am I working so hard? Why am I pouring all of myself into my work? Or why am I keeping myself super busy? And I think people learn to appreciate, I think they call it like slow living, where they are going back to like movement and natural movement, which is a lot of what we did in like people did in the 50s and 60s. Earlier on, it was all about movement, not necessarily exercise. Natural movement. So I think that I honestly think I think people are starting to glorify that type of life and living now, as opposed to how we've been living, for the last few decades. So I don't think that I don't think you look at. I think that's the kind of life people are seeking now, and then they want to live longer and better and have a more qualitative life. I know that that's something that I'm seeking currently. So, and I think we're probably all on that train, because we see what happens. We're around it when we don't.
Jessica, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I agree with Cass's point that we're getting there. I think there's still room for growth opportunity, but we're getting there. And it takes me back to thinking about the PrimeSpan community. And when I think about some of our members who did work very hard their whole life, and now they're coming to 60 and finding it hard to find a new path through not being so consumed with work. And then what happens is, as I see it, is sometimes the opposite takes hold, where then the motivation really dips and the desire to connect dips, because of what we've been talking about, the burnout. And we've so far helped a lot of people who are in that place of just feeling like I was so busy, I was so important, and now I'm not. But that doesn't mean you're not important anymore. There's a deeper sense of finding the importance, of finding the purpose that's disconnected from work, and the difference that one can still make into their 60s and 70s. And we're discovering that every day at PrimeSpan. It's very beautiful.
I noticed that because I agree with both of your observation. You notice that most of the younger workforce lately, they actually don't care about promotions.
They want to be happy.
Yes. They don't, and they also want to go on vacations more. They prefer vacations more than promotion, which is, again, when you think about it, probably better. I have one more question. What is the biggest hustle lie you had to unlearn?
More is better. That's the
More
biggest
is
hustle lie. More is better.
For you?
You work. You want more and more. Like, when is enough enough? Like, at what point? Where is your finish line? Like, what are you trying to achieve? Like, I don't think more is better anymore. I think that if you know what your purpose is, and you're able to figure out, how do I put action into my purpose? How do I live for my purpose in a way that also allows me to find joy in everyday life too? I think that's what I'm searching for now. More is not. I think you to have more, sometimes it brings more issues. Or and again, trying to live a more healthy, active lifestyle full of longevity, I don't think it's worth the compromise anymore. It's a huge price tag to pay.
Very profound right there.
I agree with Cass. I think, especially later in this year, I think minimalism has helped with decreasing anxiety all around, like even in the home and everything you want. And then when you like pause and you look around and you're like, okay, I have, a good amount of people that love me and I love them. I'm healthy. I'm working hard towards a goal, not so many goals. You don't need so much stuff and responsibilities. So I definitely agree with Cass. It was a beautiful way you said it. So I agree. More is not better.
It makes me think of something we touched on earlier in the call too, about the hustle culture. Typically it's work because someday I'll be able to do this and do that. And I want to share that, my dad's always been a hard worker, and he's going through some things with his health right now. And I admire his commitment to his work. But at what cost are we buying into hustle culture, and that you know, we have to work hard today because someday it'll all be worth it. It may not be. I really believe that it could be, but it may not be. And that's why one has to be mindful now of taking those breaks and giving oneself the reward, you know, that we deserve.
I have a thought based off of what you just said, Jess. My family, they're all hard workers. I was born into this hardworking family of farmers, and they know how to work hard, work with their hands, and work for their money. But I see now, you know, I've lost family members because they work so hard and never put in the time to take care of themselves. And now on this platform, I want to be able to help my own loved ones realize that you need to take time for yourself, because no one else is going to do it for you. You need someone to tell you. You need someone to support you through, hey, it's okay. It's okay. Because sometimes they're just in the thick of it, that they don't realize that it's happening. And so we would be here to guide anyone through that. But first, I think it takes realizing that too, and having someone to support you. But I think for myself, it was put in the hard work, and more will come. You keep working harder and harder and harder, and more will come. But I agree with what you said, Cass, earlier, that you don't necessarily have to.
You know, there's plenty of data out there that talks about people that are chronically under chronic stress have a higher risk of dying early. And that's really what we're seeing. You know, people who's chronically under stress, who cannot control it. Stress, inflammation comes up, and all of these things. And I love every example that you all have shared. You know, Kaz, your first, the one thing you shared is I resonate a lot, because the best lesson I've learned over the years, since working with one of the mentor I've been working with, even more lately, she said, less is more. Less is more. And it aligns to what you're saying. And when you think about that it's actually is a better view. Now it doesn't mean that you shouldn't push for excellence. We're not talking, I want to make sure that we don't say that we're not talking about excellence here. We're talking about, we're trying to manage stress. There's a different level here that we're talking about. There could be parallel. You could have parallel life where you could be excellent, but you want to make sure you balance this. Take vacations. You could be excellent, take vacations, you know, and make sure you exercise and make sure you eat well. And we're not trying to not be excellent. So I'm hoping our members, if there's something that they're hearing here, is that hustle doesn't equal to health. And stress doesn't always equal to success. And when you think about the glorification of the grind, it really shortens your life when you think about it. And the new success after 55 is really, how do you, if you want to live longer, as Shannon says, at 120, how do you pace yourself? Because you cannot overdo yourself. You cannot keep your at a high level of stress at 55, or from, let's say you start working at 18. At 55, if that level of stress is going, if you want to live up to 120, you cannot keep your body at that level. And you really have to pace it. You really have to manage it.
When you say that, I'm thinking about it's like a marathon, and I've never run a marathon, so maybe Kaz might have to tie into that. But when you talk about pacing yourself from the, you know, whatever the starting point is, and how long is this marathon going to be? Yeah, how do you do that? That's That's an interesting way to
Steady.
think about it. Steady.
Slow and steady. Slow and steady. Remember the tortoise and the hare, the fable. Slow and steady, you guys.
Maybe Cass or Shannon can tell us the secret in this.
That's for another podcast.
Mhm.
Jess, while we're almost closing, can you share to our listeners, just in case some of them are not a full member yet, and some of them might be this is the first podcast they're going to listen to? Can you share how can they join PrimeSpan?
So first and foremost, I would like anyone who's listening right now to go to primespan.life and experience this incredible creation. And then once you've found your way to us, you can use PrimeSpan on your desktop if you're a computer person, or you can download the app on Google Store or Apple Store if you're somebody who's more of a mobile phone person. And the great thing right now about PrimeSpan is we've added audio integration to our courses. So if you don't have time to carve out 10 minutes, which hopefully you do, that's what we're trying to teach everybody, 10 minutes to sit and read, then you can put in, as Shannon was saying, go on your walk and put in the PrimeSpan course in your ears and go through your courses. We have an incredible sale going on right now for Black Friday. So I hope people will take advantage of that. It won't be here forever. It'll only be here through Black Friday. And please join us and join the many who have already begun to live better longer with PrimeSpan.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, Jessica. Now, before we close, we're almost ending our episode today. I'm curious to hear from all of you. If you can give one piece of advice to all of our listeners when it comes to managing their stress or doing something to change their lifestyle when it comes to stress management, what would that be?
I would say love yourself enough to know when it's time to pull back.
To similarly what Jess said, make sure to water yourself when you water all the flowers around you. However way you decide to take that, just always think about watering yourself first.
For me, I would say it's asking for help, because I'm someone that doesn't want to ask for help, or it's almost a sign of failure to me that I can't accomplish something on my own. But I've learned that I need to ask for support when I'm feeling overwhelmed.
I think that it's important to do one thing for yourself each day, whether that's making your own coffee at home and just making it a little extra special, or taking a walk. But carving out 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, whatever you can give up of yourself, of the time, find some time to do one thing for yourself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, this has been hopefully for all of our listeners, hopefully this could be an insightful podcast episode in maintaining balance and also creating a balance to managing their stress and not having a burnout culture. Again, thank you for all of you who listens to our podcast. Until our next episode, keep on living. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for spending time with us. If today's conversation gave you clarity or steadiness, take that with you. We release new episodes weekly. Follow the PrimeSpan Podcast on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss what's next. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep living well.